What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about some marketing factors that's going to provide a challenge for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League trying to break into this genre of live service shooters. Now, I'm sure if I give this caveat, many may or may not take it at surface value, but I'll go ahead and give it anyways. My last few Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League videos have been very critical of the game. This is the gauntlet. I run a game that I'm kind of interested in through, so it's nothing new. If you go back and look at my Gotham Knights coverage, you'll notice that my earlier videos did pretty much scrutinize every aspect of the game that I could lay my mind on or my hands on. So this is not going to be any different for Suicide Squad. I don't care if it's Rocksteady, my favorite devs. You guys are also going to have to answer to your community as to how it is that you're going to pull this game off, especially when everybody's been waiting for you for 8 years to make an action adventure game. Also, don't read this as I'm probably going to like Suicide Squad, so it doesn't matter. This is just market factors and economics, so there's nothing really big here other than just facing the reality that is here before us. So Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is going into the live service shooter space, and this is where there's a lot of competition. All these other games available out here have years and loyal player bases, and I'm going to show two video games that will provide, in my opinion, stiff competition for this game, and that is not to include some other strong players as well. Number one is a game that I'm very acquainted with, which is a Ubisoft game. Ubisoft being the inspiration pretty much for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I know it sounds crazy, but I'll show you guys here in a bit. And that is Tom Clancy's The Division 1 and The Division 2. First of all, let's look at the numbers. Ubisoft reported that their install base, people who have ever played The Division, span as many as 40 million players. This is a crazy huge number. Across their two titles, they were able to get 40 million people aware of their brand. So that is a very powerful thing in terms of just the knowledge of the franchise. Now, whether or not they kept all 40 million people is a whole different conversation, because I for sure know that they did not, because their sequel kind of highlighted that it didn't sell as good as the very first game. But you have to also concede that the marketing in the first game compared to the second game changed a lot of different things. Back then, Ubisoft was able to show you those really pretty gameplay trailers and then release a game that didn't look like it did. Now, this is Division 1. It does look good, but I guarantee you it does not look as good as what they showed in a lot of its gameplay. Even one of them where a developer was standing on stage and playing a demo of this particular game that never materialized to be the first Division game. So by the second game, a lot of people were probably hardcore players and maybe some new ones, but that game itself didn't sell as good. But it didn't fail nor flop. In fact, on PC, it sold about 10 million copies. So you got to understand that this game does have a very loyal following, and both games, the Division 1 and 2, are still currently being supported. Division 1, skeletal support in a sense, where there are events that are just automatically cycling themselves and maybe server and infrastructure support. Division 2 does have active support where there are still events going on. The developers are still adding more items that you can go ahead and try to attain, and different parameters that give the game a little bit of some depth. So this is definitely something that the Suicide Squad game must contend with. The second contender is basically the juggernaut in the RPG looter shooter space, and that is Destiny 2. A lot of folk have not considered how Destiny 2 pretty much had one of the greatest advantages, basically Activision Blizzard's wallet. If you go back to the Destiny 2 release cycle, you'll realize that Destiny's marketing and branding was, in my opinion, one of the more expensive ones that I've seen and one of the more powerful ones that we've seen in the industry in a while. At the time, Activision Blizzard spent about $500 million in just the marketing of Destiny itself. Also, coupled with the fact that Halo's developer, Bungie, was also making a shooter, really did bring in a lot of interest to the game. Everyone at this point in time now knows about Destiny as a game and as a franchise. So when you actually consider that Destiny 2 is coming in with another annual pass called, Lightfall, you be pretty much pressed to think that, Destiny players are going to go ahead and pick Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League over Lightfall. There might be a lot of people, and I think there will be people who are willing to play both games, but there are people who are already now invested in these ecosystems that I've mentioned, Division and Destiny, that are more than likely not going to turn to look the Suicide Squad way. So what is Suicide Squad going to basically be resting on? What laurels is it going to be able to get? What fan base, what community, and how big is that community and fan base to be able to go ahead and say, we're going to support this game? The truth of the matter is it's actually unknown. You would have to see the gameplay. You'd have to see the way the game runs and what the game is about for you to be able to go ahead and say we want to engage in this game. Another thing too is the game would have to be deep in a sense. It'd have to have aspects of a live service game that allow for replayability. Is it going to be competitive like Apex Legends can get or some other live service shooters? Or is it going to be RPG-esque where there are deep elements that people can pretty much continue to have the power fantasy creep by getting better gear, better weapons, upgrading their characters in a, you know, much more progressive loop that keeps going on and on? So these are questions that you'd have to basically have to answer from seeing gameplay and seeing the structure of the game. Yes, the gameplay looks, according to some people, fun, but thinking about everything, you have to admit that that's probably not going to be able to hold down a game like this because it seems to have an open loop, especially with everybody now seeing that there is a battle pass that the game has. So an open loop like that would require a lot of content addition, which I don't know if Warner is actually willing to continue to support, or if the player base is even enough to be able to, you know, permit for such things to continue to happen. It's very interesting overall to see how all this is going to work. Now, the angle of Ubisoft pretty much being the, you know, precursor for seeing games like this is the person in charge of the development studios in Warner has been cited as saying that they wanted to move a lot of their IPs to the live service genre. If you notice, they developed just recently, or at least they greenlit just recently, a brawler, which is Multiversus, and that game did very well. And so doing very well meant profitability. So what they're doing is they're moving their games to this so-called profitable, niche in order for them to be able to try to gain those revenue streams that Destiny 2, The Division, Apex Legends, and Fortnite have enjoyed in the last few years. But here's the thing, though. It seems like this approach is basically cosmetically slapping superheroes and trying to draw dedicated fans to be the lab rats to actually get this profitability that they're looking for. Because unless this game called Suicide Squad is deep in terms of its RPG-esque mechanics like The Division is, I don't know many people who are going to basically sit here and spend time. Or unless its lore is rich like Destiny's lore and has a lot of content over the last few years, it's going to be very hard to pull from those spaces. Now, the last bastion in my mind is the competitive space. From the competitive space, are you going to be able to pull people and make them interested in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? That's going to be a very interesting thing to see. And then when you actually finally add or tag everything with the marketing proposition, you'll see that Warner is not in a position right now to spend huge sums of money on their marketing. If you think about how they've marketed their last two games or how they're currently marketing Hogwarts Legacy, it is not a 500 million ad spend, in my opinion. It could be, maybe 500 million is, with inflation and everything, is no longer a lot of money. But it doesn't seem like the marketing is going to be able to take everywhere by storm. I mean, with Gotham Knights marketing, things were kind of up in the air. Then we got to start seeing them use IGN as kind of their month, thing where they kind of just did the IGN, exposition in August of last year. They did some gameplay. A lot of it has been through YouTube, social media channels, but hasn't necessarily seemed like it broke into heavy marketing spend like the way Destiny was able to do. Then as well, Ubisoft was able to, pretty much put some really good boosts in marketing and attach themselves anyways with Xbox. And you can also see Warner is also doing the same thing with Hogwarts Legacy, kind of attaching itself to PlayStation. So when you kind of think about all of these and you think about these factors, you really have to admit that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is going to be going through some, marketing stresses. It doesn't mean that the game is going to fail, but you can already see that the game is more than likely not going to be as successful as it could have been if it had tapped into a specific marketing niche that is, in a sense, proven to be more profitable, maybe not as profitable as live service games, but overall, the audience and the targeted community can actually rally around it. And this particular audience, or this particular target audience, is the audience that enjoys the action adventure superhero games. This is why I'm looking at Spider-Man 2 as Sony probably is laughing pretty, because they know that they not only have one of these coming, they have two. Warner has one with Wonder Woman, but now she's going to have to compete in terms of quality, in terms of, lore and story and mechanics, with not only one Insomniac game, but two Insomniac games. And yes, Spider-Man 2 seems like it's going to continue a little bit of support, establishing, a lot of different interests for a lot of people, possibly at the time that Wonder Woman is coming, being on sale, and then possibly, in a sense, trying to compete with Wolverine game in terms of their launch windows. Because, yes, Wolverine might be coming in 2024, 2025, and Wonder Woman is also slated to be coming around that time as well. So this is going to be very interesting, because Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League was basically the opportunity to be able to tap into this area or this aspect. But by and large, this is just some of my, or these are just some of my own hypotheses nonetheless. And I see a big, huge set of roadblocks and, obstacles for Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League as a whole. But let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching the video, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.